In this conflict, 7 mages
Gosh,
summon a
man,
servant,
look at
a
this
legendary
now.
figure from history or mythology, and the 7 duos fight in a battle royale for a wish on the Holy Grail.
man.
Stay Night has 3 story routes. None of these routes are continued in sequels, and Extra established
so all
that
these
alternate
are
realities to
fates.
Melty Blood. The timelines they're part of,
Look at
and I
this
could count the various
now.
adaptations.
It shouldn't be this long to connect. They can just make a single one that links all of them together and runs them as a single anime. To rival top-notch animes now. Alright, so I'll be checking out one final Fate explanation that was recommended to me in the comments. Alright, so this is titled Explaining Fate, a timeline that hates direct sequels, a line through time, by the 4thSnake. Alright, so I just checked out that continuation from Gigok. Okay, so you can check that out. Alright, he put together an explanation of Fate, which was really well concise and just lovely. So you can check that out. Let me check this and see if it coincides with what Gigok explained. Alright, so guys, fellas, everyone, please join us. Let's check this out. Alright, and please don't forget to like and subscribe button. So without further ado, let's see if we can put our Fate confusion into proper order and form a total singularity. Did you understand that? Anyway, let's just get into this. Onegaishimasu. Okay. Nice way to start it, though. A line through.
Welcome to A Line Through Time, where I take the time to look through your favourite franchises and work out how it all lines up. And let me tell you, this one took quite a lot of time to work out how it all lines up. The Fate franchise has a reputation for being very
would always take your time to put two and two together.
So I'm going to briefly explain how each entry fits into the broader Nasuverse as simply as I can. I can guarantee right now that there'll be something here that some Fate superfan will notice I've missed or gotten wrong, but you'll see why this is more the fault of the franchise and how it's structured than anything I've done. I'm going to approach this one differently from the usual, and I don't just mean having a vertical timeline.
It's first Fuyuki Grail War, second Fuyuki Grail War, third Fuyuki Grail War, Fate 0, Fate Stay Night. So they are putting Fate 0 before Fate Stay Night. You can say this? You can say this? Anyway, let me hear the explanation.
Of a horizontal. Instead of discussing
at least it coincides with what Gigok
I'm just
said.
going to build this timeline by sub-series with less specifics than usual. Some are entirely standalone universes with shared magic systems and the like.
But I really love the animation though, it looks so superb.
Like the creation of the Moon Cell and Fate Extra, but as far as the
looks like it's from a video game or so. He's mixing both anime and video game. This looks like anime.
So let's get into the main timeline first. The franchise started with the 2004
this is from the
visual
opening
novel
song.
Fate Stay Night, which takes place in 2004 and centers on the
look
Fifth
at
Holy
this
Grail
now.
War held in Fuyuki City. In this conflict, 7 mages summon a servant, a legendary figure from history or mythology, each assigned a class based on their abilities and weapons, and the 7 duos fight in a battle royale for a wish on the Holy Grail. Stay Night has 3 story routes: Fate, Unlimited Blade Works, and Heaven's Field. None of these routes are continued in sequels. But before we discuss said sequels, we need to look back. Stay Night centers on the 5th Holy Grail War. The prior 4 are important to establish for this timeline. The prior 4 took place around 1800. But before we discuss said sequels, we need to look back. Stay Night centers on the 5th Holy Grail War. The prior 4 are important to establish for this timeline. The prior 4 took place around 1800, in the 1860s, in 1939.
Was that an anime that covers this?
The Fourth Grail War is
first
depicted in
three?
Zero. Nasu says it's technically a separate timeline that's just really similar, but I reject this notion for reasons that will become apparent later. Zero also had a short story prequel named Fate Zero Another Story Heart of Freaks, which is estimated to be set in 1978. And we'll cap off the central spine of the timeline with Garden of Avalon, a story set in the Arthurian era since it's relevant to Stay Night. Stay Night's Archer is actually summoned from the future, his backstory being set in another timeline where Stay Night happens without him being summoned, with his summoning creating a separate timeline in which the version we see takes place. Fate Unlimited Codes is a fighting game version of Stay Night's events with its own numerous endings. Fate School Life is a gag manga about some side characters set alongside a version of Stay Night that apparently is most similar to Heaven's Field.
Wait, let's see this. The linkage like this. Okay. Stay Night, Fate School Life, Unlimited Codes. got another Fate here on the Blade Works and Heaven's Feel. Okay.
Fate's Hollow Ataraxia is a sequel to Stay Night that's very vague about what specifically went down in Stay Night, but due to the weird events occurring here, elements of all of them are apparently present. It's hard to explain since there's no official English version of either it or its predecessor, nor is there any anime adaptation yet. Another sequel is Today's Menu for
They should do an anime adaptation of that one.
Spin-off set in a timeline where pretty much everyone survives the Grail War and become friends who come over to eat with Shiro and friends. You see how they like to make up new versions of prior stories to make sequels to rather than the actual story that was told? Spinning off from Zero are Lord Elmaloy II's case files, and its sequel, The Adventures of Lord Elmaloy II, which follow one of the survivors of the Fourth Grail War. Case Files takes place earlier in 2004 than Stay Night, while Adventures is set in 2007 after another made-up version of Stay Night that features elements of all three routes. It may even be the same one as Hollow Ataraxia for all I or anyone else knows. Somewhere along the way, it was established that another follow-up event involving Elmaloy, the Grail Dismantling War, takes place in 2014.
Grail
Fate's Strange Fate is a
Dismantling
weird one. It's supposedly part of the post-Stay Night branch I just discussed, but also features lore elements from another Nasu work, Tsukihime, which normal Fate worlds don't, but it's supposedly set in 2009 in this timeline. But on the subject of other Nasu works, Kara no Kyokai, the Garden of Sinners, is also set in this timeline, mostly spanning from 1995 to 1999. The final Kara no Kyokai story, Future Gospel, takes place in 2010. I'll discuss other non-Fate works later.
Wow, so many new ones that I've not heard of.
Out so we can get into the branches. First is a simple one. During the Third Grail War, another outcome is possible. Rather than Angra Mainyu being summoned and corrupting the Grail, Amakusa Shiro Tokisada is summoned. Additionally, the Grail is removed from Fuyuki by the German military and Darnik Preston Yigda Millennia, and you thought Death Note had the dumbest Western names in anime, which prevents the 4th and 5th wars from occurring, and instead the Great Holy Grail War takes place in Romania in 2004. This is Fate Apocrypha. This timeline then continues into the short story Fate Apocrypha Side of Survivor, which follows Astolfo meeting with other survivors of the last war, and then the recent light novel series Fate Lost Enheria, which is set in 2014. Another timeline spinning off between the Third and Fourth Wars is the most frustrating to grasp and is likely where the most errors will be. In the 1970s, an incident occurs that causes the
body story sounds so freaking interesting if they can just link everything all through and just bring it out. Like, it really sell well. The story is very interesting.
As a servant. The game's sequel, Fate Extra CCC, spins off during Extra thanks to the Sakura AI falling in love with Hakuno and getting reprogrammed. Parallel to CCC is Fate Extra CCC Foxtail, a manga reimagining of CCC that utilizes unused ideas, like having all 5 Sakura AIs be unleashed instead of just 2. Next comes Fate Extella, a Muso-like that also follows Extra in an alternate route that is similar but not the same, but the specific differences are only vaguely explained in a goddamn blog post by Nasu. Extella's sequel, Fate Extella Link, is a direct sequel to Extella, only it's not, because despite setting up the return of Extella's main antagonist for a sequel, Link insists that the main cast never even met him, despite Extella's convoluted multi-timeline plot that he instigated having still taken place here, as evidenced by the presence of a young Altera. Fate Extella is a manga where Hakuno being split into 3 and Extella also turns them into a baby.
But he's doing a really great job linking all this.
Encore starts out seeming like a loose adaptation of Extra, but is actually a sequel to a version of Extra where Hakuno and Nero lose to the final boss, leading to a lengthy cycle that concludes in 3020, instead of just being the story Extella follows on from or something. You know, something fucking normal for once. And here I thought Drakengard and Nier had the most rock-stupid take on a branching narrative that doesn't actually connect the entries. It all just makes me want to Lancer myself. Fortunately, the third and final branch is much simpler, and it's the Magical Girl spin-off. Fate's Kaleid liner Prisma Elia branches off with Elia being born 8 years later for whatever reason, and then her parents prevent the Fourth Grail War from happening, leading to the Grail system of a parallel universe invading that world, and Magical Girl shenanigans ensue. Each subsequent Prisma Elia series just follows on directly, and it's a sad state of affairs when the Magical Girl spin-off where 10-year-old girls suggestively snog each other is the one with the most normal narrative structure.
10-year-old girl? I thought they said she was 18.
Set in the aforementioned alternate timeline prior to the series. This reality is just arbitrarily different from the main timeline with little shared history, so we might as well discuss the rest of that type of alternate timeline, yeah? First up is Fate's Prototype, which is basically a fake trailer adapted from the original concepts for Stay Night, such as King Arthur not being gender swapped and the story centering on the second Tokyo Grail War in 1999. The first occurs in 1991 and is depicted in the light novel Fate Prototype Fragments of Sky Silver. Another light novel, Fate Labyrinth, is apparently set in a parallel universe that one of the prototype characters travels into during the events of Sky Silver. Fate Grand Order is the gacha game that pulls characters from various different timelines and universes, but it's not presented as a crossover of those versions of those characters, I think. It's just entering its 4th arc now, those 4 being Observer on Timeless Temple, 2015 to 2016, Epic of Remnant, 2017, Cosmos in the Lost Belt, 2018, and Ordeal Call. Also,
wait, let's hear that again.
Those 4 being Observer on Timeless Temple, 2015 to 2016, Epic of Remnant, 2017, Cosmos in the Lost Belt,
so
2018,
many.
and Ordeal Call. Also, the Fuyuki Grail War only occurs once in 2004 with different characters. And Fate Grand Order Arcade is its own version of the first arc. Fate Grand Carnival is set in 2020, so I guess it's at the end. Fate Type Redline is a manga adapted from a gag manga, Fate Koha Ace, but now with a more serious tone. The story in Redline sees a young man sent back in time from 2020 to 1945, where he becomes embroiled in the 4th Imperial Capital Grail War. The third occurred in 1943. Fate Requiem is set in 2025. This follows the end of World War III in 2011, which started as a result of many Grail Wars starting all at once around the world. The final Fate-ish works are Ski no Sango, set in the year 3000, and Notes, which occurs sometime later. I know little about these, but they apparently are connected to the Fate side of the Nasuverse. And what is the other side of the Nasuverse? Skihime, a visual novel that predates Fate and was Type Moon's original big success. The distinction between the two sides of the Nasuverse canon-wise revolves around the shared character of Zelrech in 300 AD. In Skihime worlds, he becomes an immortal vampire. In Fate, he finds other means to gain immortality since these vampires don't exist there or something. Skihime is set in 1999 and has its own series of routes that are ignored in the sequels. The first sequel is Kagetsutoya, set a year later, which is vague about the events that occurred. Presumably, this is set in the timeline that leads to Melty Blood, the fighting game spin-off series played in bathroom sinks. The setup is that this follows the scrapped Satsuki route from Skihime, which gave the writers more freedom with what events to call back to. Melty Blood React, and Melty Blood Actress Again are also set in 2000.
Wow, man, look at these names. Jeez.
Melty Blood Back Alley Nightmare is a manga that ties into Grand Order and Extra.
Wow, so all these are fates.
And the final story in the classic Skihime timeline is Clock Tower 2015, which only matters because it relates to a shared event with Grand Order, where a particular character...
I must give it to this dude though for doing all this. Like, my brain would have exploded by now if I read all these and checked them out to come and dish out to someone.
Projects is a full-on remake of the original game. The remake is set in 2014 and changes certain aspects of the original plot. Currently, only 2 of the original routes have been remade. Alongside this release came Melty Blood Type Lumina, which is not a sequel, but an alternate timeline prequel where basically the events of the remake...
This is a legendary fan here.
Aspects of both the remake route and the originals are drawn on. There's also the visual novel Witch on the Holy Night, which I think is the only Type Moon VN to get an official English release. It takes place before Skihime from 1989 to 1990, and I believe it's still canon to the remake timelines, but possibly moved around. Despite being presented as being so separate, Fate and Skihime have crossed over a few times. While Artoria and Mash's presence in Type Lumina is explicitly a cross-dimensional thing, Arcoade's appearances in Fate Extra and Grand Order are not explained the same way to my knowledge. There's also Carnival Phantasm, which features the main cast of Stay Night and Skihime in a comedy setting with a bit of crossover. And there's Hana no Miyako,
it's a very awesome
which
opening
uses the names and
song.
likenesses of characters from both, but is really just its own thing. We also have the upcoming action RPG, Fate Samurai Remnant, which follows the adopted son of Miyamoto Musashi in a conflict that includes his
flying all over here.
counterparts. Because Fate. For now, we'll assume it's standalone. But it would be really cool if it was a prequel to Type Redline. There's also a remake of Fate Extra in the works, but we'll have to wait and see if it's just a remake, another canonical alternate version of the events, or one of those remakes that are actually sequels. And with that, I believe we have now covered every notable story in the Nasuverse. I'm sure there's some 14-page short stories released with Japanese guidebooks that barely relate to the timelines they're part of. And I could cover various adaptations as separate timelines, and I could delve deeper, maybe discuss the 4 unique timelines seen in
It shouldn't be this long to connect. It shouldn't be. They can make things easier for people, you know?
And also, I just don't want to delve any deeper into this than I
And a whole lot of people are interested in this. It's just freaking confusing.
Every single part of the extra series to be a separate timeline.
A single one that links all of them together and runs them as a single anime. So rival top-notch animes now of the present day.
If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on
Patreon?
The
4thSnake.
Fine people here. If not,
then really linked this so well, so concise, like I never knew that someone that could make this more concise than how Gigog did it.
It's a series of videos summarizing Nasuverse plot
Wonderful. That's the only way I can describe this. What a very concise explanation. Truly lovely, well broken down, and just freaking straight to the point. Like in less than 12 minutes. Who would have thought someone could sum this all up in less than 12 minutes? Well, quite understandable. So what I want to ask is that the first Great War, the second Great War, and the third Great War, is there any of the spin-off or adaptations or games that covers them? Question, please. Is there any whatever animation or game that actually talked about the first and second and third Holy Grail War? Because since all they said is that Fate Zero covers the fourth one and Stay Night covers the fifth one, alright? So I don't know. Okay, and man, I'm actually intrigued and so fascinated by this story, I mean, and whatnot. I knew it was a battle royale, but I didn't know it was like this crazy, insane, and it sounds so amazing. And I just wish and hope, I don't know how far this video is going to go. I just wish and hope that they can make this as a single anime. It will be very interesting. Like all this, they should find a way to make it a string of episodes or whatnot. Even if it's not a string of episodes, they can make it like a seasonal, make that is just very much in a very good chronological order that someone can follow and properly understand. Like it will really sell and it will really go a long way. I really love this and I'm sure a whole lot of people are waiting for it to be like that or wish it would be like that because jumping from here to here to here to here, finding which one that should come first or come second. Like it's really heart wrenching and really mind twisting. Okay, let me put it that way. But hey, this was lovely. I really loved it. Like combining this and that of Kick Up, well, just puts a whole lot into perspective for me. At least I understood a whole lot and a little bit of the premise and whatnot. So well, so that actually puts my confusion bar from I was like almost 100% confused. I was reduced the confusion to less than 50. Okay, and yeah, I really love this. It's so nice and just freaking straight to the point. So kudos to the fourth snake for putting this together. Well, I'm sure it must have taken a whole lot of time to digest all that information and including all the additional ones that he added here that even Giggles didn't talk about and skip because of how mind-boggling it was. Like I'm just seeing new names here, like there's just so many. Wow. Anyway, I'll anchor this here. Really loved it and whatnot. But he didn't touch the whole Zakasha, what they call that, their super void of intense energy that everyone is trying to reach. He didn't touch that. So yeah, anyway, I got all that from Geekot, so you can check out my reaction to that though. Anyway, and yeah, I'll now cut this here. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe button. Alright, so I'll just leave it at this. I hope you loved it because I totally freaking loved it. So fellas, everyone, the total legendary Fate fans, alright, giving me all the breakdowns. I say a big thank you to you all and even the person that recommended this to me. You are the real MVP. Alright, so thanks so much. I really appreciate and recommend me more, whatever you feel I should check out and whatnot. And I will totally put it into consideration. Alright, so a whole lot more to come. Alright, so just keep being expectant and keep recommending. Alright, so thanks for watching once more, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.